Alright guys, so now I'm going to walk you through a actual sonnet, and I want to go through the characteristics we studied in the actual PowerPoint. So I'm just going to go through each one. The first thing I'm going to do though for you guys is read aloud this sonnet. So this is Unaware by Caitlin Guenther. Isolation quickly overwhelms me, begging for forgiveness. A fallen hand, desolation I now begin to see, hanging by a thin thread, a single strand. I watch them, their fears, their misbehavior, mistreat, abuse, completely unaware I am the land, their glorious savior. Someday they will learn to treat me with care. I wish they would learn to trust each other, to join as one, to stand strong together, a bond, a band, and a mighty brother, forever as one, a powerful tether. You may not know that fear is their captor, so you may not see each special factor. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about the quatrains. Remember I told you that each sonnet is 14 lines divided into 4 quatrains. So look, we have 1 here, 2 here, 3, and then 4, our very last one with the 2 couplets. So if you remember what our rhyme scheme was, that I told you most of them follow, it was A, B, A, B. But let's find out which one this follows. So let's just look at the first quatrain, and let's just look at the last words. So me and hand, no, those don't rhyme. Okay, me and sea, those do rhyme. Okay, what about hand and strand? Okay, those rhymes too. This tells me that this is going to be an A, B, A, B rhyme pattern, because the A's rhyme and the B's rhyme. But let's keep going. All right, misbehavior and unaware, no. Misbehavior and savior, yes. So let's go ahead and put our C's there. All right, well, what about unaware, care? No, those definitely rhyme. Right, other, together? Well, maybe. What sounds better? Other together or other brother? Ooh, I think other brother because of that O sound right there. So CD, CD, and that makes us on E. Right, together, tether. I would definitely probably say those are pretty close. Right, and our last one, captor and factor. Yeah, those are exact rhymes, right? They have all the same sounds and verbs, or no, not verbs, guys. Vowels, sorry, I'm thinking of another V word. But yeah, they have those similar vowels in them. Okay, so now we mapped out this rhyme scheme. Now remember, a sonnet doesn't necessarily have to follow this exact one, but most of the ones you're going to see probably will, because this was Shakespearean sort of way, and he definitely spearheaded the sonnets. All right, so then let's talk about Iamic Pentameter. Now, if you remember, this is what I was saying is a little difficult to maybe understand, but that I was going to go through it, and actually looking at this and talking about the Iamic Pentameter makes it a little easier than just looking at a PowerPoint. So I'm going to start with that first line. Now, if you remember, I told you Iamic Pentameter. All right, so Iam is when we have stressed and unstressed syllables following each other. And then pentameter is when we have 10 syllables. Well, let's start with the syllables. And again, we're just going to look at this very first line. So I'm going to count them out right here. Isolation quickly overwhelms me. All right, well, that was 11. Maybe I counted them wrong. Isolation quickly overwhelms me. Ah, maybe she broke the rules, or, but we have about 11 syllables right there. And I'm just going to write 11 right there, kind of to help us. All right, so let's go to the next line. Ready? Begging for forgiveness, a fallen hand. Oh, she's 11 again. Huh. Let's keep going and see if that's a pattern. Okay. Desolation I now begin to see. 11. Let's do that one last line for that quatrain. hanging by a thin thread, a single strand. Okay. So let's talk about this. Traditionally, I told you that pentameter means 10, right? Let me write that right up here. So right, 10 syllables, okay? Right, because we have that penta, which means 10. But Caitlin Guenther has decided to do 11 on each of these lines instead. Let me ask you the question and think for a second. I'll give a little pause. Do you think that means this isn't a sonnet anymore? And I'm going to tell you why it's definitely still a sonnet. And it's because she has done the same thing on every single line, right? So she decided to write a sonnet and give her just one more little syllable for just a little bit extra oomph maybe. And because she did that through them all, well, we're still in this form. It's still following that form. Okay, so that's the pentameter part of the syllables. But then let's talk about the iambic. Right, and this is how we spell that. Iambic equals stressed and unstressed. So let's talk about what that means. I think that when we talk out loud, that really helps us. So I want you to be thinking and maybe saying these lines out loud for me. Let me read the very first line with no inflection whatsoever. So I'm just going to read it very point blank. Isolation quickly overwhelms me. Okay. But if I'm going to read it in iambic, that means I have a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. And this means that the way I say it is different. So I'm going to go, all right, we're going to start with stress. This is how we indicate stress. So I'm going to make a little, this equals stress. And this equals unstressed. Okay? So I start with stress. And that means that first syllable is stressed in the sentence. So I would start by saying, isolation. Right? Because that's how many syllables it has. So that's stressed. So, I say it softer. Lay, I stress it again. Shun is softer. So, isolation. Quickly, where am I emphasizing that quickly? Quickly on the Q, right? So that means my stress is here and my unstress is here. Right, then about the next one. Overwhelms me. Over. So I would say that O is stressed, but the ver is soft. Overwhelms me. Unstressed. All right, I know this might seem kind of difficult, but again, remember, you're reading it out loud. Okay, so let me read this whole line regular, again with no inflection. Isolation quickly overwhelms me. But now I've mapped out the stresses and unstresses. So as I read, I'm going to stress the syllable that I wrote the stress on and not stress the syllable that I wrote the unstress on. All right, so isolation quickly overwhelms me. Right, so I put a little more emphasis just kind of on those first parts of the words especially. I'm going to go ahead and do the next line just so you guys can kind of see a little clearer, and then we'll move on from Iamic Pentameter. Right, so we're going to start with begging, right? Remember, we start with our stressed, unstressed. Begging for forgiveness. Right, so for, begging for, very forceful. And then begging for forgiveness, right? The give is where I'm putting that emphasis. So that tells me that it goes unstressed, and then we're stressed right here, and we go back to unstressed when we get to the nest. All right, so a, fallen, hand. A, fallen, hand. Unstressed, fallen, hand, and then unstressed. There we go. Sorry, I had to think about how many syllables the word fallen had. But yeah, fallen, right? I'm definitely emphasizing that in more than the fall. Okay, So I know it's complicated. This is just sort of your introduction. We'll go over it more in depth as the year continues, but keep this in your mind that pentameter equals those 10 syllables, and iamic means stressed and unstressed. Okay, the very last thing I want to talk about is the theme of this. So how do we find the theme? Well, if you remember how I told you the quatrains work, you have the beginning sort of introduces it. Here we're developing it. Here we're bringing us to a resolution, okay? So we begin with this idea of isolation and desolation and forgiveness. So obviously, whoever our narrator is talking about maybe they've done something bad or someone's done something bad to them. And then this next one, we get back to that narrator, right, with the I, okay? I watch them, their fears, their misbehavior, mistreat, abuse. Okay, a second ago I said either the narrator's done something bad or someone else. Well, this there, right, that tells me it's somebody else, not the narrator. All right, so this is our narrator talking to someone else. I watch them, their fears, their misbehavior, mistreat, abuse, completely unaware. I am the land, their glorious savior. All right, here, I'm going to box it, all right? Why do you think I did that? Because this is the first time we get the idea of who the I is, okay? So this isn't a person telling us this. This is the land, whatever that means. The glorious savior of the people who have misbehaved and done bad things. All right, well, if we're thinking about that, if this is a love story, or not a love story, if this is just like a sonnet to people from the land, what's maybe that theme? Well, let's keep reading. Someday they will learn to treat me with care. Oh, okay, so are people not treating the land very good? I wish they would learn to trust each other, to join as one, to stand strong together, a bond, a band, and a mighty brother forever as one, a powerful tether. You may not know that fear is their captor, so you may not see each special factor. Yes, I would say that this is the land talking to humans that have mistreated them, right? And they're saying right here, well, we don't really know why, right? You may not see each special factor, right? We don't know why the mistreatment is happening or what's going on in the world, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. All right, so that was kind of a little breakdown of where to look for information on the theme of the sonnet. All right, as you guys go into your independent practice, really be thinking about all of these elements I've just talked about. Good luck, guys.